Good evening and welcome to Little City TV. It is our goal, of course, each week to take an insightful look at the world of autism and what we can do as parents, family members, and friends to help improve the lives of people who are affected with this disability. Now, my name is John Davis, and it is my honor again to serve as host for this evening's program, where we will take a look at how physical fitness can help improve the quality of life for children with autism and people with disabilities in general. Our special guest tonight is David Geslak. David is a physical fitness instructor who for several years has specialized in creating and teaching exercises to children affected by autism. David has a degree in health promotion from the University of Iowa, and he is also recognized as a strength and conditioning specialist with the National Strength and Conditioning Association, as well as a health fitness specialist with the American College of Sports Medicine. Currently, David is the founder and president of the Exercise Connection. In his role, David designs fitness classes for children of all abilities on the autism spectrum, as we talked about before, from 5 to 21 years of age. The Exercise Connection program was recently adopted by the Fox Valley Special Recreation in Aurora, and it begins this July. David, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you are now concentrating on helping children and adults with autism.
Well, right now, like you had just mentioned, I'm doing work with Fox Valley Special Rec and going to other organizations to help them specifically implement exercise programs for children on the spectrum. A lot of groups, schools, autism centers, special rec associations, they're kind of confused on really the supports and everything that need to be in place because autism is becoming so much more prevalent now. I'm just trying to give them the tools needed to make these children successful, especially obviously in regards to exercise.
And you've got to be able to craft individualized programs, not only for those organizations, but also for those individuals.
And that presents a very big challenge because every child is different. Whether they have a disability, I usually like to say that I see the children for their capabilities and not their disabilities.
That's correct.
But no matter what child you're working with, you have to find what engages them. And for a child with autism, it is a challenge. And that's the million-dollar question. People always want to know, well, what can I do? Well, some things that you can do, you got to look at your child, see what motivates them, and then relay the information to me, maybe a teacher or anyone that knows your son or daughter better than I do, because I don't know every child. I wish I can help everyone, but by teaching these models and these philosophies to these groups, I think that's a better way, and that's what I can do my part in helping these children get better.
Sort of like keeping track of what really turns the light on in these children, what excites them, what really gets them going in terms of their progression. And once you've identified that, then you can start, putting them on a track.
Right.
For this how beneficial is physical fitness and physical challenges to these children?
Well, physical fitness, there's not as much research done on it as there should be, but there is where it can help reduce maladaptive behaviors in the children, and those are the maladaptive behaviors you may not be aware of it, but that it could be sometimes like the biting, the scratching, things
right.
where they're trying to communicate with us, but we don't know exactly what they're trying to say. But there's been things there's been research done that'll help reduce that. Obviously, exercise is beneficial to help reduce obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease. So that's why these children need to be moving. Just for the fact that there's a lot of with medications that these kids are on, and sometimes their diets are poor, where if they're not moving, autism is preventable, or type 2 diabetes, obesity, that's preventable.
Absolutely.
So we got to keep it going for these kids.
And we're taking, of course, your calls as well. Our live line is 312-738-1060. So give us a call if you've got questions tonight of David Geslak. I understand research has shown that exercise can help improve in these areas, such as the sensory integration and coordination for children. What are some of the things you've personally seen?
Well, some of the things I've seen a lot, and the biggest thing that people always ask me is, what do you initially see? And it's that confidence. It's giving that child that they're doing something, whether it be picking up a soccer ball, going on a treadmill, doing certain types of activities, but to build that confidence within the child and give them something that they can achieve, something that they can do. And what I know is it's helping them more than they even realize. So that's been one of the big things. But for sensory integration, for example, these kids have highly sensitive systems to hearing, sight, sound, taste, and smell. But to provide that calming effect for the children, to release sometimes even the toxins within the body. When we sweat, we do that.
Right.
We're getting a lot of stuff outside, sweating it out. So I've seen that, and I've seen just those maladaptive behaviors calm down with a lot of kids. I can give you one quick example.
Sure.
I was working with the group at the school, and there was about 10 that would come in at a time. So it was very challenged, but I was only able to do that because of the support that was in place. All the kids have a one-on-one aide at the school that I was at. But there was a time where the kids there was a lot of maladaptive behaviors going on. They've been used to what I called Yoga Friday. I dimmed the lights, dropped them down to the ground, just had them lay there for about 5 minutes and to have these children be peaceful and calm for 5 minutes was amazing. Then we got up, did our normal exercise routine, and they went through it. It's so much more easier. But when they came in with those maladaptive behaviors, I was like, what am I going to do? And I just put them down into a nice little yoga lay position, calmed them down, turned the lights off, then we got up and we did our stuff. It was awesome.
That's amazing. What is the amount of time trainers like yourself need to make the exercises effective for people with autism?
That's a great question. One of the things that people always ask is that, and you can't put a time limit on it, especially with these children. Another great example, a boy I was working with, we were working on what's like a ladder pattern where their feet come together and apart, come together and apart. Now that is can be very challenging for a lot of these kids. Crossing midline of the body is very challenging, but this just even to come together was a challenge. So this boy, I worked for 6 months. I had visual supports in place with tape and something in the middle with a different colored piece of tape to have him do that. 6 months, still I tried everything. One day his aide came over to me and he's like, Dave, he did it. And I'm like, did what? And he's like, he did it. And we watched him do it, and he started apart, together, and went apart. And I was just like, you don't know sometimes what connects, but you can never give up. You got to keep going, because it was amazing.
That's got to be very gratifying for you too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, to finally make the breakthrough.
Yeah.
And it seems so small, perhaps, to many of our viewers, but that is a big deal, and that is a great milestone. And you can almost see their faces light up, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and when you got to be excited. You got to be excited when you do this, because obviously everything that I do is genuine with the kids, but if you're not also, if you're working with these kids and you're not in it for the right reasons, and maybe it's just another job, but if you have no emotion behind it, I strongly urge you just to go find something else, because these kids need that support and that motivation.
They will sense it.
Absolutely, no question. They may not be able to talk or anything, but I promise you that they do sense it.
That's right. Well, I understand you've developed about 5 different components that provide the right amount of physical fitness for children and adults with autism. Is that right? So explain those and why that's important.
Well, obviously a child with autism or any disability, their needs are different. And for the last 50 years, 20 years documented, but 50 years the way that we've been educated on fitness, the components have been body composition, flexibility, muscular strength, muscular endurance, and cardiovascular endurance. Now, no question are those important, but there's things, for example, that they speak about, that they also say is a skill, meaning coordination and balance. And when we look at children with autism, coordination and balance is in my eyes, is a component. You hear about motor planning, motor coordination, but to see it represented as a skill just is not, it needs to be a primary component. So I kind of readapted the 5 components, and what I did is as a means of educating not only our children, but our parents, our educators, and to really meet their needs. So the 5 components are body image, posture, motor coordination, muscular fitness, and cardiovascular fitness.
Why did you put an emphasis on muscular fitness?
Well, because in the old components, it was muscular strength and muscular endurance, and sometimes I think it's confusing because you shouldn't lift a lot of weight, and you should only do a little bit amount, and blah blah blah. Just muscular fitness is the combination of both. So, and we know we should be doing it to benefit not only ourselves but our children. So we can do it, but to have it separate, I just thought it was just too confusing.
We have a caller. What is good evening, first of all, and welcome to Little City Television. And what's your question?
Yes, I have a child with disabilities, and sometimes it is hard to motivate her to exercise. Do you have any suggestions on how to motivate her, especially if she's not as coordinated as perhaps some of the other children with disabilities?
As I said earlier, that's kind of like the $1 million question. But one of the I'll give you a story and maybe that'll help you. There was a boy that I worked with for about 1.5 years. And what got him to get through on the treadmill, to do some activities, was A Spoonful of Sugar by Mary Poppins. I listened to it, I don't know, probably 2,000 times. But the fact that that is what kept him motivating, I used it. Some people will tell you, and some groups will say, oh, no, don't let him use it because it's repetitive. You know what? If that's what's going to keep him going, if that's what makes him happy or her, you just got to find what it is. So and I never thought I'd say this when I worked with the neurotypical kids or adults, that I would put them on a treadmill and have them watch a movie. But if that's what it's going to take just to get them started and used to things, I would definitely try something of that. It could be music. Music is huge. If you go to the gym right now, I guarantee you everyone has the iPods on.
That's exactly right.
So, and same thing for our kids. It's a huge component to helping them be successful and have them have fun with it.
So look for that thing again, that thing that turns them on, that excites them, that you can make that transition from not wanting to do something here with this little tiny bit of motivation, this little bit of enticement, and all of a sudden, they're engaged.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you got to. Well, can parents help guide their children, or is it better for a trained person?
No, absolutely not. It's not. I think that's where it needs to start. Now, I speak about this throughout the Midwest and a little bit nationally, but my goal and what I do is to educate parents and have them be the motivators, be the leaders in health and fitness for their children. Or maybe it's a brother, an older brother or sister that may be in the house, and or a grandpa. I got another story for you, but where they don't know. Maybe they don't know how to connect, but dads, even in this world of autism, a lot of dads aren't around. But some dads, maybe this is it. Hey, if it's getting them to throw a football, I'll show you how to start working with them. But that may be your connection to working with your son or daughter. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a trained professional. Because when I speak, I tell parents, I said, tell me what you learned, tell me what you did, and email it to me, so then it can make me a better educator, because I don't have all the answers. No one does with autism. I am definitely an expert in the physical fitness side of things, but with autism, we're still all learning, so we're all in this together.
Now, you also worked at Giant Steps. How was that experience?
It was amazing. One of the best experiences I ever had. With the support in place, with all the one-on-one aids, with the staff, Again, it was amazing. And to work with the kids and see that I could take 10 physically challenged kids and have them work together, work through stations, and do it, like I said, it was amazing. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had.
So the interaction, the communicate, the development of academic and daily living skills, all of this can be gleaned from physical exercise, from a physical regimen.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a real turn on for these kids and these.
Well, yeah. I mean, but some kids obviously it can be a challenge. It's like any teenager, any kid, they don't want to exercise. But that goes back to the point where it's so important for parents, to be the leaders, for them to see, for a mom or dad to maybe one day go in the basement. And maybe they're on the treadmill or doing some type of activity. Well, their son or daughter may not follow that first time or that first week or month or year.
Right.
But when they go down there, when that child follows him or her down, or older brother, sister, I want them to be able to know what to do with the kids or have something to do with them. But they need to see you do it.
Right, right. Now, earlier you mentioned how you've been involved with these local organizations and helping create fitness programs designed to help children with autism. What are the challenges you face with starting a program, first of all, and how are they being received by the general public?
They're definitely it's definitely being well received. Some of the problem is that there's not a lot of research and documentation, like I mentioned earlier. There's some stuff being done, or there's some previous research, but compared to like occupational therapy, speech therapy, music therapy, all that, again, there's not as much done in the field of exercise. But being part of these organizations is what I'm trying to do, is now provide studies. So, you know, parents could fill out, the groups can fill out, and then we can have follow-up to see if behaviors changed or whatnot. So yeah, I think that's one of the most challenging.
Preliminarily, are you finding that it does have an effect?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, again, it's that confidence, and it's something for them to engage in. There was one boy that I had and worked with for a year and a half, and he did not gain weight in a year and a half. Now, he didn't lose any,
right,
but the fact that he didn't gain any was a huge success. And that's what I tell it does. Maybe it's not, you know, again, maybe it's not him losing the weight or whatnot, but the fact that he just maintained it, that's
was he a little overweight?
Yeah, but to maintain it for a year and a half, and with diet and everything,
that's an achievement in itself.
It's huge.
We have another caller. Welcome to Little City TV, and what's your question for our good guest here, David?
Yes, hello. I've always been a person who believes in vitamins and using natural foods to improve my health and the health of my family. Can you explain some ways where better nutrition might help people with autism and other disabilities?
Absolutely. Well, like you had said, you've always been a believer, and I think that's the first part. Now, my guess is that in your home, the kitchen cupboards and the fridge is loaded with probably good foods. So that's the first step, is provide those, and so it's around. If we know, like chips and stuff, take them out. Specifically though, with children with autism, there's things which you maybe have heard of is called like a gluten or a casein-free diet. Now, I'm not an expert in those, but I do know a little bit about that. And the gluten is where it's wheat, and casein is dairy. And by removing that from the child's diet, there has been success into helping them get better, meaning cleaning out their systems. So that is something that I would also suggest for any parents or even groups that are watching. Research that. It's very interesting, and there has been a lot of success with the kids. Not every child has improved, but the gluten and the casein, that's a good point to start in removing.
I mean, you can't underestimate, and you certainly can't overestimate the importance of good nutrition. You know, in children with autism, or adults with autism for that matter. The fact is that what good stuff goes in is going to create a good result later. I mean, what comes out in us and what comes out of us is almost you know, on a 1-to-1 ratio. But you know, I'm just wondering, you work with NFL players and you work with these big strapping guys, you know, and how, you know, I mean, to go from that experience to this experience, you know, how has that transition been for you?
It's been amazing. Ever since I started working, when I started at the University of Iowa, worked with one of my best friends who played for the Dolphins and the Chargers. All the time I was working with these kids, and when my first connection with the child was, the long story short, is I taught a boy to skip. He was on the spectrum, in 4 one-hour sessions, and his parents had him with an OT, and it had taken like 6 months, and they couldn't do it. But I did it. I don't know how I did it. It connected, and ever since then,
you don't know?
I mean, I know what I did. I had to break it down, but the fact I wasn't trained in it. You know, I didn't go to school for autism fitness or anything like that. I went to school to be a strength and conditioning coach and health promotion, and that was it. But I broke it down and I connected, and that boy's smile, I wrote about this. I don't know whose smile was bigger, mine or his, because to see him skip, that confidence, it was amazing. So I loved working with Iowa, loved working with my buddy, but this is it. This is where I plan to be until I can't do it anymore.
Where do you go from here in terms of your research and your plan development and your program development?
Just trying to get more groups on board, and they do understand the need for it, but to now provide them better visual supports. I have, like, for example, I have visual supports that come with my DVD, things like that, but I want to provide it, give them all the tools that they need to say, here it is, and it's kind of a step-by-step approach, excuse me, and then it's laid out for them, just to make it as easy as I can.
So will you be developing more of these?
The DVDs, yes, I hope to, but this, in the DVD that I have, it's me instructing the viewer, whether it be a parent, a professional, or an educator.
Right.
So, and working with 2 boys with autism. However, I would like to do something where it's video modeling, it's called, where almost like an exercise DVD where you put it on, the kids watch it and do it. And that's what they call in the autism community, like video modeling, so they can see and do and use music and things like that. And that's one component I know I had mentioned, is that the music part of this, and that's what learning from Giant Steps and their fitness therapist there, amazing to work together, understand rhythm, beat, and tone, is something that needs to be added for these kids. So that's where I see this moving on.
The natural progression of things that way.
Yeah.
I saw some of the Wii games also have, these kinds of components. That kind of modeling where it's so interactive that you even if you are just a novice, that you at least get to go as slow as the model on the screen is doing it, and it's amazing how much confidence or how much flexibility you can get in just following this model on a television screen.
No, you're right, it is, and
then it's happening in your home too, which was really kind of cool.
The only thing that is great, but the only thing I do always worry about, especially for more of our neurotypical children, is they start with these Wii games or they start with these exercise video games, and then they all of a sudden go back to the game where they can just sit there and just do it again. That's the only thing I ever worry about. I think still there's a thing called ocular lock, and again, I don't understand all of this as much, but where if we're staring at a screen for 3 to 5 hours at a time, it does a negative for our brain and our vision. We don't hear about those studies all the time, but we can, and any group can make any study really sound great, but especially the video game people, but we got to remember that still. Try to get back to the basics, take them outside, have them get a bike, do things with your children or the children you work with, and get them outside and moving.
Do you find more fitness trainers like yourself, those trained through, the prestigious universities like the University of Iowa, coming out into this particular arena?
No, there's not many that are doing specifically what I'm doing.
Is that disappointing?
No,
because it's been so rewarding to you.
I mean, it is disappointing. I want more people to help these children, and I think there's people that are maybe intimidated because it is a challenge to work these kids. But like I said earlier, if you're not in for the right reasons, then you definitely need to step away because the kids can sense that. So, but if I can go into these groups and motivate one individual, whether it be someone from a university or a parent or anyone to go do something with the kids, absolutely. But I think you'll see over the next, I would say 5 years, we'll see universities doing more studies, and we're going to see there being something offered specifically to autism fitness.
Well, you see right now so much information finally starting to come out about autism, and I think that is churning out a lot of interest in a lot of different places. And so maybe you're right. Maybe this is the kind of thing that needs to start to create this big movement of its own, and with so many tentacles in a lot of different places. And I think that you're absolutely right. I think that a lot of people will get turned on to autism, and helping children with autism. what are you going to be doing here in the rest of the summer in terms of your activities with these children?
The biggest thing is working with Fox Valley Special Rec to help them develop their program, because this is going to be group-based programs and individual programs, but really just educating their staff is one of the biggest things I'm going to be doing.
Fabulous, fabulous. Well, we only have a little bit of time left in our show, and I really want to thank you very much, David, for coming on. David Geslak, who's a physical fitness instructor, has been working with children with autism and is doing phenomenal work with them. And I want to thank you all for joining us today. Come back and join us again next week, Little City TV, as we tackle the issue of autism. Have a good night.